Okay guys, homework 2 is on domain and range and complete the square. So a reminder that domain is your x values, how far left and right a function goes, and range is your y values, which is how low it goes and how high it goes. And notice that these are all functions over x, and so we need to look at the parent function. The 1 over x graph looks like this, and the negative 1 over x graph looks the exact same except it's in different quadrants. So it's important that you know that difference. Now for your domain, look at all the x values you hit. You actually hit every single one of them. As you can see, the arrow goes to the right, the arrow goes to the left, but you never hit this 0. And so if I look at my x values, I go from negative infinity to infinity, but I don't hit 0. So for this graph, my domain, which I'll call that D, goes from negative infinity to 0, union 0 to infinity. So that's my domain. My range is going to be the exact same thing. It goes from negative infinity to infinity, but notice how I never hit this right here. I never hit a y value of 0. So I could also write that the range is that. And that's true for both of these. All right, now let's take a look at what this would be. Now we know that x cannot be negative 5 here. And so when I graph this, I know x cannot be negative 5. So I'm going to put an asymptote, just like that. And now all of a sudden, this becomes kind of like my new thing that a vertical asymptote that I'm not touching. And so my graph will actually look like this. And then below the x-axis, it will look like that. Now, why did I know it looked like that? Because it's a positive 2 in the numerator, so it's going to look like this one, not like that one. Versus this one has a negative 6, so it's going to look more like that one. And again, how did I know that I won't have minus 5 here? Because I know I can't have minus 5 in that denominator. So now for my domain, what are all my x values? Well, I can go from negative infinity, and I cannot have minus 5, so I'm going to put minus 5 there. Union minus 5 to infinity. So this is a fancy way of saying I can have every single number for x. I can plug every x value into that, except I cannot plug in a negative 5. So every number from negative infinity up to minus 5, but not including minus 5, and all the numbers from minus 5 to a billion, trillion, right, big number, but not minus 5. Okay, now my range, for my range, I have all the y values down below, all the y values up above, but I never hit the x-axis, which is a y equals 0. So my range is going to be from negative infinity to 0, union 0 to infinity, because it's not hitting y equals 0. These are asymptotes. They get closer to that line, but they never hit it. Same thing here. These arrows get close to that minus 5, but never hit it. All right, let's do one more. Let's do B. So if I have this graph here, because of the negative, I know it's going to be a graph like this and like that. But I also know I can't have minus 1. So I have an asymptote at minus 1. So I have a graph like this. And then I have a graph like that. And so for my domain, I hit all the x values except I don't hit minus 1. So that's going to be from negative infinity to minus 1, union minus 1 to infinity. For my range, I hit everything except for the y value of 0, because see how that arrow gets close but never hits? That arrow gets close and never hits. So we have all the y values down below, which is negative infinity to 0, but we don't touch 0, so we don't touch the y value of 0. Union 0 to infinity. All right, the next thing is complete the square, and I have a separate video for that, and I'll send that to you.